Chapter 63. As we walked through the streets of Tempest, the sun gently warmed the cobblestone, and the people gave friendly waves or respectful bows. Seal walked beside me, calm and graceful as ever with her mask in place. It was nice, peaceful. No paperwork, no demons vying for attention. I gave her a sideways glance. So, you're not going to stop me this time? Seal looked straight ahead. No, Ren already expected you to try escaping and made sure you completed the priority documents this morning. So you're technically free now. Technically. I squinted. She tilted her head slightly. Well, she said she'd count it as lunch break if you came back before sundown. Quote. Sneaky Ren. I sighed, but a small smile tugged at my lips. The weight of responsibility had been piling up lately. I'd almost forgotten what it felt like to just breathe. Then again, I don't need to breathe, but, metaphorically, you get me. We haven't gone on a date in a while, have we? I said casually, hands behind my head. Then I turned to her with a teasing grin. Would you like to go on a date, my wife? Seal paused for half a step, visibly flustered, even behind her mask. We can't. People know us here. It would be improper. Ah, but it's a date with your cute and hard-working wife, I teased further, leaning a little closer to her face. No one will mind. Seal turned her head slightly, averting her gaze. You're far less hard-working than you think. Rude, I said with a grin. Then how about this, let's go for a walk in the forest instead. No formalities, no crowds. Just us. She hesitated, but then gave a gentle nod. Fine. I felt my heart skip a little. Even now, her quiet affection got to me. And so, we left the bustle of Tempest behind, walking deeper into the forest trail. The branches swayed softly above, birds chirping here and there. It was quiet, calm, and perfect. No urgent messages, no incoming reports, just the soft sound of leaves underfoot and the rhythmic brushing of her sleeve against mine as we walked side by side. For once, I felt like I could just exist with her. As Seal and I strolled through the forest hand in hand, the sun filtering through the canopy in dappled golden rays. Her fingers were warm and gentle in mine. I could feel the peaceful magicules in the air, soft and humming. Tempest was alive, and for the moment, calm. But just as I was about to comment on how nice the breeze felt, I sensed a sharp flare of power nearby. A monster. We turned the corner of the wooded path, and sure enough, a low-level forest beast, more bark than bite, was in the middle of swiping at something small and squishy. I narrowed my eyes. A slime. It looked like me. But no, not exactly. This slime was pink, rounder, smaller, with two antennae-like strands of slime poking up from her head like little ribbons. I didn't even think. One moment the monster was charging again, and the next. Azathoth. A whisper of black void swirled out, and the creature vanished into nothingness, consumed utterly. Seal didn't even flinch. She simply stood there beside me, arms folded, observing calmly. Then, before I could get a closer look, plop, the pink slime leapt up and launched herself right at me. Wah! I instinctively reached out and caught her, my arms cradling the soft jelly-like form. She was squishy, ridiculously warm, and instantly started rubbing her round body against my chest like a sleepy kitten snuggling for warmth. Are you okay? I asked, blinking. No response. Not a sound. She just continued wiggling in my arms. Snuggling. Quiet. Content. Like a soft marshmallow with feelings. I glanced at Seal. Thoughts. Seal tilted her head slightly. It resembles you quite a bit. Though pink. And quieter. Isn't that kinda adorable? I muttered, unable to hide the tiny smile creeping up my lips. The slime pressed closer, antennae wiggling gently, still completely silent. She's not hostile, Seal said after a moment. More like, imprinted on you. Great, I sighed, holding her up slightly. I went on a date with my wife and somehow adopted a child. The pink slime nestled into my arms, practically melting into my hug. Seal leaned slightly closer, eyes narrowing behind her mask. Master. Why yes, you're enjoying this too much. I laughed nervously. Well, she's cute, right? What am I supposed to do? Throw her back in the woods? Seal didn't reply. Instead, she gently reached forward and patted the pink slime. Slime remained silent but started snuggling against Seal's hand now. My eyes widened. Quote. Seal, I think she likes you too. Seal quietly looked away. This is not how I expected today to go. Neither did I. So we decided to take her with us. Ellipsis. As we entered my office, Ren stood by the office desk with an ominous stack of paperwork in her arms. Her eyes narrowed the moment we entered. A rather long break you took, my lady, she said sharply, lips in a tight line. I smiled nervously, one arm still cradling the round, wiggly pink slime currently nestled against my chest like a baby. Seal quietly stepped inside after me. I could feel the amusement radiating from her link. She was not going to help me. Ren's eyes flicked toward the pink blob in my arms. Quote. What is that? She asked flatly. Oh, this. I held the slime up slightly, and she gave a happy little squish, nuzzling closer. I found her in the forest. Some monster was attacking her, so I saved her. She kind of stuck. Ren stared. That's a slime. Technically correct, I replied. But look, she's pink. With antennae. She looks like me, sort of. Maybe a distant cousin. The slime wiggled proudly, as if to confirm it. Ren's brow twitched. And she's now, what? Your pet. Not a pet, I said defensively. More like, a little one who imprinted on me. She just keeps cuddling. She's harmless. Ren squinted harder. So, after leaving your paperwork unfinished, you came back with a stray slime. My lady. Wait, don't say it like that. She's adorable. Look, I brought the slime closer to Ren's face. It tilted upward and gave her the tiniest wiggle. Ren stared at it. It stared back. Then, plop, it launched off me and straight into Ren's arms. WH. The slime immediately began rubbing up against Ren, antennae flicking, as if claiming her. Ren stood frozen. She looked down. The pink blob wiggled joyfully. I bit back a laugh. Oh, looks like she imprinted on you too. This is absurd, Ren muttered, her cheeks faintly pink. Seal, from the side, calmly remarked, that makes 3. Ren narrowed her eyes. You as well, Lady Seal. She was very warm, Seal replied serenely. And obedient. I grinned. So, can we keep her? Ren opened her mouth, then looked at the slime still happily clinging to her. The blob gave a little bounce and nuzzled her sleeve again. Fine, Ren sighed, but you are responsible for her care. I'll share custody, I declared proudly. We can take turns feeding and walking her. Or, whatever it is slimes do. Seal nodded. She doesn't appear to need feeding. I already like her more than Veldora, I whispered. The pink slime bounced in agreement. I'll give you a name, I said, smiling as I held the soft pink slime in my arms. She was oddly affectionate, even for a monster, snuggling me, clinging to my chest like a child refusing to be let go. Honestly, it felt familiar in a weird way I couldn't place. I thought for a moment, then nodded. Your name will be Mira. Light bloomed from her body, a soft, pulsing glow that warmed the air. But something was wrong. I blinked. No, magical drain. That's not possible. Any proper naming should have drained a power. But there was nothing. I still felt completely normal. Then the glow flared once more, blinding white, until it collapsed in on itself, and standing there in front of me was me. No, she looked like me, almost exactly like the human form I used after defeating the Orc Lord, but more feminine. Her silver blue hair fell to her shoulders, swaying softly as she tilted her head and looked up at me with bright, sparkling crimson eyes. The 2 little antenna-like strands from her slime form were now delicate tufts of hair, bouncing with each movement. I stared. That's my face. She grinned sheepishly, one hand behind her back. Hee, oops, wait a second, I said slowly, narrowing my eyes. You already had a name, didn't you? Her smile widened into a full-on playful smirk, like a kid caught sneaking dessert. Guilty Tilda. My eye twitched. Who are you? Oh, my name is Shinsha. She replied brightly, bouncing on her heels. I froze. Seal, standing beside me, didn't react outwardly, but I could feel her curiosity flare through our link. And, Shinsha added, placing her hands on her hips proudly, I'm your daughter from the future, mummy. Silence. I blinked. I'm sorry. You're what? She pointed at me. You. Then turned to Seal. And her. Then both fingers at once. My parents. Even Seal, stoic and unreadable with her mask still covering her face, shifted ever so slightly, her magical signature pulsing in clear shock. I turned to her. Seal, I have no memory of producing offspring. Yeah, me neither. This is definitely not how slimes reproduce. Shinsha beamed up at us. Oh, I'm not exactly from this timeline. She said smiling, but I promise it's real. I'm real, and I really love you both. She hugged me again, tight, warm, and honestly, it felt really genuine. I didn't know what to say. I just looked at Seal again, who remained still as a statue. Master. According to all analysis, her power is comparable to that of a true dragon. She's exceptionally skilled at concealing it, but she's not lying. The probability that she's telling the truth is extremely high. That's not comforting. Shinsha, now clinging to my arm like a second limb, giggled. Don't worry, Mummy Tilda, I'll explain everything eventually. But for now, let's go home, okay? I was still trying to reboot my brain from I'm your daughter from the future, Mummy, when a sharp voice cut through the tension like a thrown dagger. Wait a minute, Ren's voice, calm as always, at first. I turned just in time to see her stepping forward, one gloved hand raised dramatically, her expression still blank but her words anything but. If you're from the future, does that mean, her violet eyes narrowed. My lady, died, huh, or, she continued without pausing, some super intelligent machine took over the world and wiped out civilization. And now they're hunting down the last hope of humanity, starting here. Her voice dropped into a deadly whisper. Are we living in the origin story of a magical Terminator? Ellipsis. Seal turned toward her slowly, silently. I turned back to the supposed future daughter. Shinsha looked completely unfazed. In fact, she smiled cheerfully and gave a quick shake of her head, her red eyes glinting with mischief. Nothing like that, Tilda, she said with a bright giggle. I'm just here for sightseeing. Sightseeing, I echoed flatly. She gave a happy twirl, her shoulder-length hair bouncing with excitement. I've heard so much about this from my moms, and at the academy too. The founding festival is supposed to be super fun, so how could I not come see it for myself? She beamed. I mean, this is the moment Mummy's city truly begins. That's legendary. I didn't know whether to feel flattered or very, very concerned. Seal remained quiet beside me. Her mask hid her expression, but I could tell from the pulse of Magicules that she was analyzing this down to the subatomic level. Meanwhile, Ren had completely frozen in place. My lady didn't die. She whispered. Of course not. You're all alive and well in my time, Shinsha said sweetly, then pointed at Ren with a knowing grin. Though, I won't spoil your future. Ren stiffened again. I finally managed to clear my throat. Okay, time out, time out. I stepped between everyone, raising both hands like a referee at a slap fight between ogres. 1. You're saying you're my daughter, from the future. 2. You apparently have multiple mothers. 3. You came here to watch a festival, like it's a school field trip. Exactly, Shinsha chirped, giving a cheerful thumbs up. I stared. Seal finally spoke, her tone cool and analytical. Master, according to my analysis, her magical signature is stable. Her soul is compatible with yours. And she is not lying. Alright, Shinsha, you're gonna have to explain a lot, starting with this, mother's part. Of course, Mummy Tilda. She said sweetly, then winked at Seal. You're one of them. Seal jolted ever so slightly. Ren collapsed to one knee, hand over her heart. I am not emotionally prepared for this. Honestly, same. Let's go home now, I said, exhaling. I want to hear everything, no dodging. Shinsha beamed, her red eyes glowing. Okay, I'm coming too, Ren chimed in from behind, already moving to follow. I'm extremely curious about her. I gave her a look. Nope, you have mountains of work to do. Ren froze mid-step, but, I'm giving all of it to you. She stared at me, betrayed. You're abandoning your duty, my lady. I'm reassigning it, I corrected smoothly. Efficient leadership, you know. I gestured grandly toward her. Ren, I entrust my workload to your capable hands. Good luck. Unbelievable, she muttered, already pulling out a notebook with the grim air of someone preparing for battle. As we turned to leave, Shinsha giggled, and in a pink shimmer, she morphed back into her slime form, hopping straight into my arms. Wah! Hey, I caught her on instinct. Warn me before you do that. Hee Tilda, sorry Tilda, but I wanted to cuddle Tilda, she said, snuggling up against my chest. I sighed, lightly patting her squishy surface. You're too used to this. Seal fell into step beside me, quiet and composed as ever, as we left Ren behind to her impending paperwork doom. It was a short walk through the quieter part of town. Soon, my modest house came into view. Shinsha bounced lightly in my arms. Ah, the vacation home. I blinked. Vacation home, yep, this is where you and Mama come when you want to relax. Tilda, you usually stay in the castle. What castle? I asked, narrowing my eyes. The one with all the big glowing halls and star ceilings and floating books. I turned to Seal. Do we have a castle like that? Not yet, she replied calmly. But if you desire it, we can begin construction tonight. I looked down at the pink slime snuggling into me. You make it sound like I'm secretly living in luxury. Tilda big sister Ren says. Shinsha suddenly switched to a haughty imitation of Ren's voice. A ruler without a castle is like a banquet without wine, passable but utterly lacking in refinement. Of course she did, I muttered. That's incredibly on brand. Well, I murmured, stepping onto the house, welcome home, I guess. I'm home, Mummy Tilda. Shinsha chirped happily. I smiled despite myself. Yeah, you are. We stepped into the hall, and I settled onto the sofa with a soft sigh. The familiar cushions cradled me as I finally relaxed. Veldora was stretched out on the floor beside the low table, eyes glued to a battered manga. He barely glanced up. Welcome home, he mumbled without looking. I rolled my eyes but didn't comment. Instead, I patted the sofa beside me. Seal, she sat gracefully at my side and reached up to remove her mask, revealing those soft red eyes of hers. She gave me a small, reassuring smile. Shinsha shimmered in my arms, then, poof, shifted into her human form, perching in my lap. She turned around and wrapped me in a tight hug. Mummy Tilda, she chirped, rubbing her cheek against my chest. I laughed, running a hand through her shoulder-length silver blue hair and gently patting her head. You're so affectionate, she beamed. Because, I love you. I loosened my arms just enough to ask, so, multiple mothers? You said you have more than one. Shinsha nodded enthusiastically. I have 2 sisters, one older, one younger. Each of us has a different birth mother. She wiggled happily. You're my birth mother. I was born by combining your soul and Mother CL's soul. My fingers stilled on her hair. I gave birth. Although I'd accepted my new life as a woman, this was on another level. I glanced at Seal, whose cheeks were faintly pink. Well, I guess I don't mind if I gave birth to our child. Seal simply smiled, her eyes warm. Shinsha hopped off my lap and stood in front of me, eyes shining. As for my elder sister, her birth mother is your second wife. She was born from you and your second wife's soul. I raised an eyebrow. Second wife. And my younger sister's birth mother is your third wife. Shinsha clapped her hands. I blinked at her rapid nonchalance. Wait, third wife. Veldora finally closed his manga with a snap and sat up. He looked between me and Shinsha, blinking slowly. His brows furrowed. Quote ellipsis question mark quote. No words. Just pure, visible confusion on his face, like someone handed him a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Honestly, fair. Meanwhile, my mind stuttered. Hold on, I said, leaning forward slightly. Who exactly are my second and third wives? Shinsha beamed, clearly about to answer like it was the most natural thing in the world. Well, FWIP. A pulse of magic shimmered through the air. A sudden distortion in space right in front of us, and then a girl appeared, teleporting in without a sound. She looked just like Shizu. Same facial structure, same dark hair, but her eyes, those were not Shizu's calm brown. These were brilliant gold, just like mine. Her expression was firm, but the faintest touch of irritation twitched at her brow. She looked just a few years older than Shinsha, maybe 14 or 15. And she was dressed in a sharply tailored black and white maid outfit, polished, crisp, and definitely custom. Her movements were disciplined and elegant. She didn't even say a word. Smack, she brought her hand down with perfect control, delivering a clean chop to the top of Shinsha's head. Ow, Shinsha squeaked, holding her head and puffing her cheeks. You didn't have to hit me that hard. Big sis. The newcomer crossed her arms. You were about to reveal restricted future information. But Mummy asked. Shinsha pointed toward me. My eyebrow twitched. Big sis. I echoed, eyes flicking between the two girls. Yup, Shinsha grumbled, still rubbing her head. She's my big sister. Seal was already analyzing the girl, red eyes narrowing faintly. Golden eyes. Magical signature identical to yours. Likely partial soul fragment integration. Master, I believe this child may have been born from you as well. The girl gave me a curt bow, placing a hand on her chest. I apologize for my sudden appearance. My name is Shizu. She looked up, her golden eyes calm but unwavering. I am your daughter, born from the fusion of your soul, your second wife's, and the lingering essence of Shizu Izawa. In a sense, I carry her will. You could say I am a reincarnation of Shizu. My mouth hung open. Seal stared. Veldora dropped his manga. You're what now? I whispered. Shinsha, still sniffling, added proudly, see. Told you. Big sis Shizu's super scary, but she's amazing. She works as my personal head maid in our time. I buried my face in my hands. I just wanted to ask about one daughter, and now I have a chain of time-traveling daughters with multiple mothers, none of whom I remember marrying. Seal gently squeezed my shoulder, her voice soft. We'll handle this together, master. Shizue simply sighed and straightened, her posture graceful and composed. Please refrain from triggering further causal paradoxes, Shinsha. She turned toward me with a gentle nod. Do not worry, mother. I'll keep an eye on her. A faint smile tugged at her lips, elegant and refined. She may be unpredictable, but I've handled worse. Single quote. Mother. I whimpered. Shinsha giggled. Yup. And you're the best one, Tilda. I gave up and flopped back into the sofa. Someone, please get me tea. As if on cue, the door opened with a soft click. I expected you'd ask for it, my lady, came a familiar, calm voice. Ren walked in with a silver tray, perfectly balanced in her gloved hands. Steam rose gently from the fine porcelain cups. Her presence was as composed and serene as always, but I could see the faint flicker of curiosity in her violet eyes as they scanned the new faces in the room. I sat up. Wait, Ren, what are you doing here? She placed the tray gracefully on the table and began distributing the tea with her usual, flawless precision. I pushed, assigned my duties to Shion and Testarossa for the evening, she said smoothly. I felt compelled to personally attend to your needs. Shizue stepped forward without hesitation and assisted Ren, her movements clean and precise, bowing slightly as she offered cups to everyone like a well-trained maid. Ren paused briefly, watching her, a smile tugging at her lips. You're quite skilled. Flawless posture, measured steps, not a single drop spilled, very impressive. Shizue returned the smile with grace. Thank you, master. It's all thanks to your training. Ren blinked. My training? She narrowed her eyes and looked Shizue over carefully, now truly registering her face. Who exactly are you? Shizue placed the last teacup on the table and turned to Ren, hands clasped neatly in front. I am Shizue, daughter of Rimuru Tempest and her second wife. Ren stiffened. Daughter. That makes you a princess, she added softly, brows slightly raised. So why are you working as a maid? Yes, Shizue replied without hesitation. I am a princess, but I am not the heir to the throne. That position belongs to my younger sister, Shinsha, who is both stronger and smarter than I am. Shinsha let out a dramatic sigh and crossed her arms. I didn't want all that responsibility, I just wanted to spend time with you, mummy. She pouted slightly, then added with a grumble, but my elder sister keeps insisting I need to become the next queen. And my younger sister, she said she'd rather focus on her hobbies, then went and made herself head of the entire research and production department. Shizue ignored her and continued, I only wished to support her, just as you supported my mother. That's why I chose to train under you. Ren's face remained unreadable for a moment. Then, softly, she said, I see. A long silence followed. Then she nodded once, with approval. You did well. If I trained you, I expect no less. Shizue's eyes sparkled faintly. Thank you, master. I stared at the two of them, Ren, my ever-reliable and strangely maternal maid, and Shizue, apparently the daughter of me and a mystery wife, trained in maidcraft and honor by Ren. I leaned back in the sofa, slowly sipping my tea, and sighed. We sat together in that oddly peaceful silence, sipping tea like none of this was out of the ordinary. Veldora was unusually quiet, probably trying to process the same timeline chaos I was. After a while, Shinsha glanced over at Shizue, tilting her head with curiosity. Hey, big sis, she asked, how did you know I was here? Shizue didn't even blink, she just sighed like an older sister dealing with the millionth instance of this exact behavior. Because you like mother way too much. If I want to find you, I just have to go to her, and you're always there. Another sigh. It was strangely practiced. I raised an eyebrow, a little amused. You really like me that much? Shinsha didn't even hesitate. She stood up, walked over to me, and without any warning, sat down on my lap like it was the most natural thing in the world. Then she snuggled into me, red eyes gleaming with affection. I do, she said softly. Then she smiled and added, because you're so beautiful, elegant, and warm. Ellipsis. Wait, beautiful. Sure, I've been called that before. Warm. Okay, yeah, fine. But, elegant. I froze. My brain screeched to a halt like someone had slammed the brakes on my entire thought process. Elegant. Me. No, hold on. She thinks I'm elegant. My smile locked into place. I was patting Shinsha's head like a composed mother, but on the inside. Code red. Full panic. I've been perceived as elegant. This is a disaster. I slowly turned my head toward Ren, who stood nearby with the tea tray, my eyes screaming help me louder than Veldora at an all-you-can-eat parfait buffet. Ren met my gaze. There was a long pause. She closed her eyes and let out the softest, most exhausted sigh I'd heard all day. I will bring a stronger blend next time, she muttered. I nearly wept. Even Seal subtly shook her head. I could almost hear her thought. You brought this upon yourself, master. Meanwhile, Shinsha hugged me even tighter, happily unaware of my identity crisis. You're the best, mummy. I was being hugged by a daughter I didn't know I had, who thought I was the epitome of beauty and elegance. And I couldn't let her down. Ellipsis. Guess I have to learn how to sit like a lady now. And walk without tripping. Crap. Shizue stared out the window with a small, tired sigh. Now I've found one, she murmured. Only one left. I tilted my head. You mean, my third daughter? She nodded slowly, eyes still fixed on the sky. Yes, and she'll be troublesome to find. A flicker of nervous amusement crept into my voice. Is she really that bad? Shizue turned back to me with a flat expression that said you have no idea. Yes, she causes chaos wherever she goes. Even the master once said she inherited all your most troublesome traits. Infinite curiosity, a love for research, and an unhealthy obsession with creating new things. I winced. Ah, yeah, that sounds, little troublesome. Worse, Shizue sighed, she's the one who suggested we come back in time in the first place. Wait, she suggested time travel? I asked, nearly spilling my tea. Yes, Shizue nodded, sighing. Well, until you find her, I said, smiling softly, feel free to stay here. This is your house too, after all you're my sweet daughters. The words came out warmer than I expected. A strange flutter stirred in my chest watching the two of them, Shizue with her composed, yet slightly flushed face, and Shinsha immediately lighting up like a sunbeam. Hey Tilda, Shinsha giggled, squirming a little on my lap, her hands fidgeting with her skirt. Embarrassed, but happy, her cheeks were glowing. Shizue looked away, a faint blush coloring her cheeks too. She gave a small nod, eyes softening. Thank you, mother. Ah, there it was again, that word. Every time one of them said it, I felt my heart clench, not from pain, but from this gentle weight of responsibility and affection. I wasn't sure if I'd earned that title yet, but I wanted to. If they saw me as their mother, then I'd live up to it. Somehow, I leaned back slightly, arms still gently around Shinsha as she rested against me like a satisfied cat. It's getting late, I said, glancing toward the windows. Let's take a bath and head to bed. Shinsha immediately perked up. Can I sleep with you? She asked, hopeful eyes sparkling. Weak spot. That was my weak spot. Sure, I said, ruffling her hair. She squealed a little and buried her face in my chest with a big grin. Yay Tilda. Shizue raised an eyebrow. Are you going to spoil her this much every night? I shrugged casually. What are you talking about? You're sleeping with us too. Her eyes widened in shock. Wah, I'm not a child anymore. She protested, her cheeks turning bright red. I reached out and gently poked her forehead. For me, you'll always be a child. Shizue looked away, flustered, but after a moment, she whispered softly, if that's what you want, mother. Ren sighed in the background, standing like a shadow near the wall as always. I glanced at her. She didn't say anything, but there was a glimmer of warmth in her otherwise calm expression. As we stood and were about to leave, just then. Haha, take care, Rimuru. Veldora's voice boomed across the room. He grinned wide and gave a wave. And you too, my niece. We'll play later. Shinsha grinned back, waving enthusiastically. And then, mummy. Before I could react, FWIP, she leapt toward me and turned into her pink slime form midair, landing right in my arms with a squishy plop. Whoa, I staggered just a bit. Shinsha, seriously, hee Tilda, she snuggled against me happily. Slime snuggle attack successful, I guess. I heard Shizue sigh behind me. She always does this, she muttered. Seal, quiet as ever, stepped beside me. Without a word, she reached out and gently took Shizue's hand. I did the same on her other side. Shizue blinked, caught between us, her eyes wide. Huh, we're going together, I said simply. Her fingers twitched, but she didn't pull away. A faint pink dusted her cheeks as she looked down. Hey, cute, ellipsis. It was already past midnight when we made our way toward the public bathhouse. Only the quiet shuffle of a single staff member greeted us as we entered. I walked in first, carrying Shinsha in her pink slime form against my chest. On my other side, I held Shizu's hand. Seal did too, one on each side of her. She walked between us like it was the most natural thing in the world, not saying much, just gently smiling. The lone staff member near the changing area glanced up as we approached. Her gaze shifted from the pink slime nestled in my arms to the composed girl walking beside me. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes, curiosity, maybe confusion, but she said nothing. Instead, she gave a respectful bow and stepped aside. We stepped into the bathing area together. The entire place was empty, steam swirling lazily through the wide stone room. The air was warm and smelled faintly of lavender. Lanterns cast soft golden reflections on the surface of the water. It felt quiet, peaceful. Ours, Mummy, Shinsha mumbled as she shifted forms again, this time turning into her human shape, wrapped in a small towel and hopping beside me. Is it okay if I sit with you? I ruffled her silver blue hair. Of course, come here. Shizu didn't say anything, she just walked calmly to the rinsing area and sat down without needing to be told. Her poise, yeah, that's my girl. I noticed Seal glance at her and slow her steps slightly, just enough to be beside Shizu as she knelt. I couldn't help but smile. We didn't need words right now. A warm bath, my daughters beside me, my wife watching over us. It was one of those quiet moments that slipped by without any big event, but it meant everything. After rinsing off, we stepped into the bath. The warm water welcomed us like an embrace. Shinsha immediately made her way to my lap, sinking into it with a blissful sigh. Shizu settled between me and Seal, her expression calm and relaxed, and Seal sat silently beside her, hands resting gracefully on her knees. For a while, we simply soaked in silence. The gentle steam filled the air, softening the space around us. Shinsha's breathing gradually slowed as she leaned against me, her little hands limp in the water. Before long, I felt her shift slightly, and with a quiet plop, she transformed into her pink slime form, already fast asleep. I smiled softly and scooped her up, cradling her small, warm form in my arms. Looks like bath time wore her out, I murmured. Shizu gave a small chuckle. She is always like this. Seal tilted her head slightly. She's quite attached to you, master. It's endearing. We eventually rose from the bath. I carried the sleeping Shinsha gently as we made our way back home. It had been a peaceful moment, one I wouldn't mind repeating. Ellipsis ellipsis ellipsis. Ellipsis ellipsis. Ellipsis. We finally made it back home. As we stepped into our room, the gentle warmth and low glow of the lamplight welcomed us like a soft embrace. On one side of the room, I noticed 4 neatly folded sets of sleeping clothes already prepared. Ren had clearly been here earlier. Everything was just right, as always. In my arms, the little pink slime inched slightly, then shimmered, and with a faint glow, Shinsha returned to her human form, still curled up and drowsy. Her eyes peeked open, red and sleepy. Home already, she mumbled. I replied with a smile, brushing her bangs back gently. Seal moved past me to inspect the clothes. Shizu, yawning softly, took one of the smaller sets and turned toward Shinsha. Come on, I'll help you, she said softly. Okay, Shinsha replied, still rubbing her eyes. I watched as Shizu carefully helped her little sister out of her robe and into her soft nightwear, light pink with little stars on the sleeves. Shinsha clung to Shizu's arm the whole time, swaying on her feet like she could doze off any moment. Seal and I changed too, quietly and quickly. Once everyone was ready, we got into bed, one big futon with all 4 of us side by side. Shinsha curled up immediately at my side, her hand finding mine under the blanket. Shizu settled between her and Seal, pulling the covers up to her chin. For a long moment, it was quiet. Then, a soft voice broke the silence. Mommy, Shinsha murmured. Yes, can you sing me a lullaby? I blinked. My heart gave a little squeeze at how she said it, so gently, with such trust. I could feel Seal shift slightly on the other side. Shizu looked over too, smiling sleepily. I let out a tiny breath. All right. My voice was soft, quieter than a whisper as I began to hum, a tune I remembered from Earth. It wasn't perfect, but the melody carried enough comfort, enough warmth. Seal rested a hand on Shizu's head and gently ran her fingers through the girl's dark hair. I matched her, stroking Shinsha's hair in slow, rhythmic motions. Her eyes fluttered shut after a few moments, her small frame relaxing against me completely. Pat, pat, pat. Both girls were asleep before the second chorus ended. So peaceful, so still. Across from me, Seal glanced my way, her mask off, her expression tender. She gave me a tiny nod, and I returned it silently. Tonight, everything felt right. I tightened the blanket just a little and kissed Shinsha's and Shizu's forehead. "Good night, girls," I whispered. Seal echoed softly, "Sleep well, our daughters." And just like that, with their quiet breaths beside me and Ciel's warmth near mine, I closed my eyes and drifted into sleep, my heart full. The room was quiet now, save for the soft, even breaths of the girls nestled between us. Shinsha's silver blue hair was barely visible beneath the blanket, her tiny hand still loosely clutching mine. On the other side, Shizu was curled toward Ciel, peaceful and warm. In the dim light, I glanced across the sleeping forms toward Ciel. Her red eyes glowed faintly in the dark, watching me. I whispered, "You know, I never expected this. To have not one, but 3 wives and daughters." Ciel's eyes softened. "There's nothing wrong with that," she replied gently. "I told you before, as long as you love me too, I don't mind sharing your heart." Honestly, I thought the number would be higher. I stifled a quiet laugh, careful not to wake the girls. "You're too accepting, Ciel." "No," she said, her voice low and sincere. "I just know what I want. And what I want is you. Whether you have 3 wives, or more, I'll always be yours." My heart warmed. "Thank you," I whispered. Ciel smiled faintly. "Good night, master. Good night, my wife. Ellipsis 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 dot. Ellipsis ellipsis dot. Ellipsis dot dot." Morning light spilled softly through the curtains, painting the room in golden hues. The air was quiet, still, calm, and peaceful. The kind of quiet that made you want to stop time just a little. I opened my eyes slowly. There they were, Shinsha and Shizu, lying side by side, their small hands intertwined beneath the covers. Both of them were still asleep, their faces peaceful, faint smiles on their lips as if they were sharing the same dream. I stayed still for a moment, watching them. Then I looked across the bed, and met Ciel's gaze. She was already awake, her eyes gentle, red irises catching the morning light. Neither of us said a word. We didn't need to. Carefully, we slipped out of bed without waking them. I brushed Shinsha's bangs aside once before stepping back. Ciel did the same for Shizu, her fingers soft and lingering. Then we stood together near the window, looking down at them, our daughters, still holding hands. "They look so peaceful," I whispered. Ciel nodded, her voice just as quiet. "They must have felt safe." We exchanged a glance, then moved silently to the side of the room where Ren had left clean clothes for us. Ciel picked hers with practiced grace, while I took mine and began changing. It was quiet, but not empty. There was a warmth in the air, something gentle and shared. By the time we finished, I turned to her, fixing the cuff of my sleeve, and saw her adjusting the collar of her uniform. She looked elegant, poised as always, but her eyes softened the moment she looked at me. I stepped closer, reaching out without hesitation. Ciel stilled, blinking up at me. Then I leaned in, brushing my lips against hers in a quiet kiss. She inhaled slightly but didn't pull away. Her hands rested lightly against my chest, fingers curling just a bit. When we parted, her cheeks were faintly tinted. "You never change," she murmured, voice barely audible. "Good morning," I said with a smile. Ciel looked away for a moment, trying, and failing, not to smile. "Good morning, master." I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. This was happiness. After sharing that quiet moment with Ciel, we both turned our attention back to the bed. Our daughters were still curled up together beneath the blanket, hands linked, faces soft with sleep. I crouched down beside Shinsha while Ciel gently sat near Shizu. "Hey," I said softly, brushing my knuckles along Shinsha's cheek. "Morning, sweetheart." "Men," she shifted a little, her brows scrunching in that sleepy way she always had. "Mummy." Ciel gently shook Shizu's shoulder. "Time to get up." Shizu's eyes fluttered open, blinking against the light. She yawned, then sat up slowly with a small stretch. "Morning." "Good morning," Ciel said with a smile, brushing Shizu's hair behind her ear. I looked back at Shinsha. Her eyes were barely open, and she just flopped against me like a warm, tired pillow. I chuckled under my breath. "Still half asleep, huh?" She gave a slow nod and rubbed her eyes. "Don't wanna move." "All right," I said, lifting the clothes Ren had set aside for her. "Then I'll help you." "Arms up." She mumbled something incomprehensible, but slowly raised her arms with heavy effort. I helped her out of her sleepwear and into her fresh clothes, buttoning the front and tugging her sleeves straight. She leaned against me the entire time, like her bones had turned to jelly. Once I was done, I was about to reach for her hair ribbon when Smack, a soft smooch landed on my cheek. I blinked. Shinsha pulled back, still sleepy-eyed but smiling faintly. Thanks, Mummy. I couldn't stop the warmth that spread across my face. You're welcome, Shinsha. Just then, soft footsteps padded over. I glanced to the side. Shizu stood there, already changed, her cheeks tinged with red. She hesitated, then leaned up and quickly kissed my other cheek before ducking her head shyly. Thank you, she mumbled. I froze for a beat, heart skipping. Seal, watching from the other side of the room, gave me a gentle, amused look. I smiled back at Shizu and placed a hand on her head, stroking her hair gently. You're both too sweet. Shinsha gave a sleepy giggle and leaned her head on my shoulder again. The morning passed in a peaceful rhythm. Breakfast was warm and simple, filled with the sound of gentle clinks, small giggles, and sleepy chatter. Seal helped the girls at the table while I finished my meal a bit quicker. My schedule for the day was already packed. After wiping my hands, I stood from my seat and reached for my coat. I'll be heading out now, I said, slinging it over my shoulders. Seal, I'll leave things here to you. Seal gave a graceful nod as she gathered the empty plates. Of course, Master. I'll take good care of them. I stepped toward the door, adjusting my collar. That's when I felt a small tug at my coat. I looked down, and there was Shinsha, staring up at me with those big red eyes, full of affection. I knelt down to her level, about to ask what was wrong. But before I could say a word, she leaned in and pressed a soft smooch to my cheek. Don't forget to come home early today, she said sweetly, hands behind her back. I blinked, a little caught off guard by how natural that sounded coming from her. Then Shizu walked over and gave a small, shy nod. I'll help Mother Seal with lunch. You can count on us. I smiled, warmth bubbling in my chest. Thanks, both of you. Just as I turned again to leave, I noticed both girls suddenly glance toward Seal. Shinsha tilted her head and said, "What about you?" Seal raised an eyebrow mid-step as she finished wiping the table. "What about me?" Shinsha said smiling. "Won't you give Mommy a goodbye kiss?" Shizu nodded matter-of-factly. "In our timeline, you always do." "Yeah, and all our other moms too," Shinsha added with a bright grin. Seal froze, plate in hand. Slowly, she turned toward them, then toward me, her face unreadable behind the mask. "I do?" she asked carefully. Shinsha just nodded with that innocent smile that hid far too much knowledge. I chuckled. Well, if it's tradition. I took a slow step back toward Seal. "What do you say, my dear wife? Don't want to break future customs, do we?" Her hand twitched, but she quickly composed herself, setting the cloth down with dignity. "For their sake," she said softly, walking over. She removed her mask with deliberate grace, then leaned close and kissed me. Gently on the lips, tender and brief, but lingering just enough to make my heart flutter. When we broke apart, the girls squealed happily behind us. Ciel's face was faintly flushed as she stepped back, mask returning to her face. "Now go, Master. You'll be late." I gave her one last grin. "Yes, ma'am," and with that, I turned and headed out the door, heart lighter than it had been in days. To be continued.